What's going on, y'all? This is Mike Brown, and I just wanted to say thank you for tuning into the show. You know, y'all are here for me every week, getting me through these times, and I just wanted y'all to know that I'm here for y'all in whatever way you need. Please feel free to reach out on the social media, through email. Get in touch with me. I'm here for y'all. Know that none of us are going through this alone. Also, I just created a Patreon, so if y'all would like to subscribe to the Patreon, please do. I would love the support. Thank you so much. This is The Art of Letting Go.
Yo, what up? This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Today, I got a special guest in the building. You mind introducing yourself to the people?
Yes, sir. I have figured out how to use the mute buttons, so now y'all can hear me. My name is Eddie Maisonet, pen name, Ed the Sports Fan. And I used to have like a really fancy way of introing myself on these things. But now I just say I am a man of many words, a man of many bottles, and a man of many hats. But formerly, I work for ESPN. I'm an editor covering the NBA. I also run a whiskey club focused on Black and brown sippers and women in particular, to introduce them to the finer points of whiskey, cognac, scotch, and other brown liquors. And then also I have a media company, TSFJ Media, which was started back in 2011 and is known for the Sports Fan Journal, where we've been launching the voices of women and Black and brown creatives in particular write about sports and music. So I've been doing that since 2011.
Damn, that's what's up.
Yeah, man. I gotta pay these bills, man. I gotta pay these bills. You know, just got married recently. Had to pay for that. So, you know, whatever it takes, man.
Man, how has marriage like been in the quarantine? Like, how is it quarantining with somebody else?
Man, you know what? It's actually been really good for us. I think, I used to get a lot of heat because me and Paige, we got married in January. And it's funny, we might have had the best timing ever because we got married in January and then came back from the honeymoon in February, and the Corona hit in March. So,
wow.
we've been in the honeymoon phase. And ever since pretty much we came back from Jamaica for our honeymoon. But we've also been together for 7 years. Our anniversary is our wedding day. We planned it like that on purpose. So every January 19th is our anniversary. And so, we've been together for a long time. And so we know what makes each other tick. We understand when, she knows when I probably need a little bit of space to be like, yo, just let me play the video game. Let me sip some brown. Let me just cool out. And I know when she needs to do her thing and have her space and have her moment. And I also know when she needs my energy, and she knows when I need her energy. And so I think we've always done a really good job of communicating and sharing and knowing when it's time to have like a tough conversation and getting through it early versus letting it simmer. So I think that's really been the ways we've stayed really positive. And then we still try to keep things fresh. Like one thing we do is we drive. It's funny, we live in, as you know, we live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yo, I could live in Los Angeles, but traffic is crazy. I couldn't do it. Well, guess what? Traffic is not crazy. And one of the things we've been doing is look at new houses. We've been thinking about buying our next house. And, we're looking at the greater Los Angeles area versus where we live in South LA. And so, we have a chance to actually drive to the valley. We have a chance to drive, closer to the OC. We don't want to drive too close to the OC because it's a 45 country down there, if you know what I mean. And I ain't feeling it. But, we get a chance to check out Long Beach, North Hollywood. We've been checking out a bunch of different neighborhoods. And it's just been good to get that fresh air. We take our dog with us, and our dog gets a chance to pee and poop on new trees and new neighborhoods. So, it's good for all of us. And so that's definitely been a way for us to let go and, get some freedom, get some fresh air, and, have an experience, a new experience with each other.
That's what's up, man. Just listening to you talk, man, I want to ask you, like, what does a healthy relationship look like to you?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because I've always been in I don't think I've ever had toxic relationships. I can be fortunate enough to say I've never been in a toxic relationship. I think I've always been pretty aware of like, oh, this ain't gonna work, or you're not gonna make me happy. But what I think makes our relationship healthy is, well, she's better than me at listening. Like, believe it or not, I'm probably sometimes I can be hard headed, and she knows it. So now her patience is appropriate to deal with me.
Yeah.
And I think conversely, like my superpower is that I will be compassionate, and I will, take on the heavy lifting when necessary. If that means, if anything, I would say I'm probably, of the two of us, I'm the more domesticated of the two. I probably pick slightly more. She can hear me right now.
Yeah.
So cuss me out if she. But like I will. There's nothing I won't do that she won't do, and vice versa. I mean, just the other day, I feel like everybody during quarantine is getting their home improvement on. And so one day, like a whole ass bed just showed up from IKEA. And I was like, I don't know if we have enough tools to do it. I told her I would try to figure it out. Man, I woke up on Saturday and I was working, and I just started hearing this banging, and I go in the spare bedroom. She out there just knocking out the bed. It's like, hey, babe. And like half the bed frame is up. I'm like, man,
that's dope.
That's super dope, and she did it. She there was like a couple of times she needed me to like do some like grown man hammering, or like to lift something, but other than that, man, she took care of it. And like I think she probably appreciates the fact that I cook breakfast almost every day. And so I think you start to realize like kind of what your partner's rhythm is.
Yeah.
And I also think that you do all the things necessary to do the stuff that's hard first, so that it doesn't have to be harder later. And that could be just a tough conversation. That could be just addressing finances. One of the best things we did about a month ago was we just recalibrated our budget. And, like for the last believe it or not, last 5-6 weeks, I've been able to like save money. Like I actually have like built up a nice savings. And what she knows, because I'm the type that'd be like, I don't need any money, I'll be fine. But she knows that if my money is a little too tight, then I'm going to be more prone to want to stay in the house, or to not want to do certain things. And so she knows that it might affect my mood or my mentality. So, like that was actually probably just as important for me to feel financially secure, so that we can go drop 2 racks on a fire pit and some backyard furniture. So, that's how we live in, I guess, right now.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because I feel like across the board, when I talk to friends that are in relationships, like at least most males are really concerned about that financial security. Mm-hmm. Why is that though?
Well, I mean, I think we've always been trained. I was raised by nothing but Black women.
Yeah.
And frankly, I grew up my entire life, for the most part, seeing the Black women in my family be the bosses, and that includes financially. And I think that in one way it was very empowering to see them be that way. But I also think, you hear how they talk about other men, and you hear what their expectations are. And then that's also, just cultural norms of what men should do. And, like you're always going to have that pressure to feel like you should provide. But at the same time, our relationship probably works really well because we're very transparent with our situations. I mean, I'm in a relationship where, I do well financially, and my wife is kicking my ass financially. She's doing even better. And so, she's like, yo, like we can handle this. We can do it. And sometimes if it's even a situation where like, oh, I feel tight, I can, she'd be like, no, we can do it. And like, we can make it work. And part of that too is like me not having an ego, and I struggle with it. She knows I struggle with like dealing with some of that stuff of like letting her handle that stuff, or not even like letting her, because there have been times where she was going to do it regardless. And I was either going to be along for the ride, or I was going to look like Boo Boo the Fool. So yeah, like that stuff matters. But what I will say, and what she will appreciate about financially or anything else, women and partners, and this goes both ways, but I speak from a lot of women I know. Women love it when a man got a plan.
Yeah.
Your partner will love it when the other partner has a plan. And I think it's hard for me sometimes because she knows when I'm not motivated, I won't have a plan. And she loves it when I'm motivated and I got a plan. She's like turned up all the way, turned on. She's with it. But so I think that's always, even if you ain't got it, even if you ain't got no money, even if you ain't got no resources, you know, I mean, I like to feel like I've always outkicked my coverage, as men say, about, you know, dating someone that's probably out of their league. But I feel like I've always been a recipient of that, not only with the women I've dated or now married, but the jobs I've been able to do or the things I've been able to achieve. Because half the time, people just want to see that you have a plan or you have some idea of how you want to go forward. A lot of people will give you the things that you want if you have a semblance of an idea of how you want to get there, because most people want to see you succeed, and most people want to, if they've got it, they want to help you. And, you know, I can't, you know, I can remember having a thoughtful conversation with one of my mentors in Ohio when I was getting ready to start my website. And and I told him like, hey, well, I'm trying to get this for the design, and, you know, I want to bring on somebody to help do this and that. The man sent me $1,000 check in the mail.
Wow.
Dr. Jeffrey Allen Glenn, you know, dentist in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's my frat brother. And, you know, I didn't ask him to do that. And when I told him about it and I asked him, he acted like I didn't know what I was talking about, even though the check had his name. He was just like, I want to support you. I've got money to throw around. I'm happy to do it. And so, you know, I think it's one thing when people say like, you got to speak things into existence. I think that's half the battle. I think what you really got to do is you got to write it into existence. You got to format it, and you got to think about what are the things you got to do. And it's okay if you don't have the answers, but then you start to go through the process of where do I get those answers? And so, you know, that's what's helped me a lot. And I still got a lot to do. I'm not accomplished in that way, but it's helped me at least do what I've done thus far.
Yeah, man. I think because, like I said, I'm listening to you and I'm soaking it all in. I'm taking it all in, but I'm also wanting to ask you, like, how do you stay connected to yourself within a relationship? Because I feel like for myself in the past, that's kind of a place where I've gotten lost, I guess, just not being in tune with me. But how do you stay connected to yourself?
I don't want to say this in no cocky way. I think I just do. I think I think half the battle is when you're getting into the relationship and you're developing the roots of your relationship. If you're not consistently being yourself, then, you know, what sometimes, you know, they say, oh, you got to put your best foot forward, or you got to put your representative out there when you're in a relationship. And then you can let them see who you really are after the fact. And I'm like, nah, that's probably not going to work for me. Like, I'm really in my whole life in a lot of ways is devoted to sports. Now, that doesn't mean that's all I am as a human, but like I work in the sports field. I'm a creative. I write, I edit, I consume, I do. That's what I do. And so if you are getting in a relationship with me and that's a problem, like it was never going to work in the first place.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's actually worked out really well with me and currently, because I probably don't need to be dating anybody that's into sports as much as I am. I'm glad that, you know, it's funny. Like I think about the fact that Paige is, she likes sports, but she's not like diehard in any way. But the woman don't like basketball. And I'm like, what black woman don't just like even kind of enjoy basketball like a little bit? Her mama likes basketball, her grandmama likes basketball, her sister likes basketball, her little niece 3-year-old likes basketball. All of us love basketball, but she don't. And I was like, girl, this is like almost a divorceable expense, a reason to file the paperwork or to break up. And But no, like I think that she knows I like my video games. She knows I like my brown liquor. She knows I like hanging out and being social, and being with the people. And she knows how I like to get down. And I think once she accepted that, which was that wasn't never really a problem. But they always say like you got to be yourself, and you've got to be, you've got to. And I say this about her too, and she says it about me. Like, I don't think this relationship would have worked out if we both didn't have our own lives, and we weren't supportive of that. So, I'm happy that she has her girlfriends. I'm happy she's found a way to now rise in her business to be a boss, and like it's gonna take time. It takes that time away from us, but I also know that she's striving and achieving, and it makes her happy.
Yeah.
And she knows that I would be miserable if I wasn't able to do the things that I can't do. And there was a point when I was in between, before I joined ESPN, some things had happened. And when I had left Fox Sports to go to ESPN, and there was about 6 months where it was shaky.
Yeah.
And she knows how miserable I was. And she's like, yo, we gotta get this right. And, so I think your partner should understand not only who you are, but they should also be willing to invest into helping you continue to be that person you want to be, and whatever that is. Now, she could hear me, but she also knows that I want a PlayStation 5. She doesn't want to give me a PlayStation 5 because I may or may not. Okay, so true story. When I had a PS3 when I met her. We've been together 7 years now, so this will make sense.
Yeah.
When the PlayStation 4 came out, I was like, ooh, I'm a cop. And I didn't cop it. And then Christmas came around. And I told my mom and my aunt, like, I don't really want nothing, but, like, I'm going to get the PlayStation 4. So if you want to help me get it, cool. Sure enough, Christmas come around, PlayStation 4 under the tree, cool. I then decided to tell Paige that we were going to have a third person in the relationship, and her name is Penelope. This is what I had named the PlayStation 4. Let me just say that did not go over all that well. So ever since then, she's basically decided I will never support you in this. And I mean, she'll let me. She doesn't give me any crap on time playing or nothing like that. But she has never contributed $1 to anything PlayStation related. I don't think
That's real. That's real.
So yeah, but other than that, she's invested her time and energy with, me being a creative and me needing to travel, me needing to, spend those hours writing or editing or traveling. She's always been supportive of that, and so I love her for that. That's what keeps things healthy more than anything else.
That's what's up, man. I got 2 more relationship questions, and I got some sports ones too.
Oh man, let's do it.
But how did you know that she was the one?
Oh, easy answer.
Yeah.
I quit my job, and I was in between. She's been through it with me too, because I've been like, I'm gonna quit jobs and like I'm gonna rethink life and stuff. And so one time when I quit my job, I was freelancing as a writer full time, but I was living in Oakland, California. Like, it costs to live in Oakland. So I was valeting cars on the side. And me and her had been dating for like a year or so. And she was like super supportive of when I told her I quit my job. You would think like a woman, she hears her man's like, oh, I'm quitting my job. Most women might run like, oh, he ain't got no money. And she was like super supportive. And you would think as the man making this decision, that would be the sign that like, oh, she might be a keeper. Nah, that wasn't it. She calls me. She's like, hey, I'm around the corner. I'm going to get Chick-fil-A. Would you like something? And I was like, yeah, I want some, of course. And I was like, well, let me tell you what I want. She was like, no, I know what you want. I was like, excuse me? She was like, you want a number 1, no pickle, fries large size, with a sweet tea to drink, light ice. And I was like, I'm going to marry this woman. yo, this is crazy. I was like, yo, I think she might be the one for real. And so I kid about the fact that she remembered my order, although that was amazing. But what actually probably put it over the top is that she came into the parking lot where I was valeting. And mind you, I'm like 29, 30 years old. Like, you know, I'm a grown man and I'm sweaty. You know, I'm in all black, running cars and stuff. And she had her girls in the car. So she had like 3 of her girlfriends. And I didn't really know. I knew them, but I didn't like know them. And so I'm thinking they might be judging me. And so I'm getting insecure. And she handed me my food and stuff. And she was just like, hey, babe, like, here's your food. I love you. I'm so proud of you. You know, you're doing your thing. And, you know, I just want to let you know that I'm supporting your mission. And I was like, damn.
Wow.
Yeah. So in totality, all of that was really kind of like a real signal.
Yeah.
But it sounds way cooler if I just said, yeah, she remembered my Chick-fil-A order while I was valeting cars at one time.
That's real though, man. Like,
yeah,
that's real.
Yeah. So it was cool, man. And that chicken sandwich was hitting though, for sure.
That's funny. I feel like my last relationship was like that. And like when it didn't work out, I didn't know. I still don't really know how to like maintain like just a relationship in general, a friendship or anything like that. But that feeling still be there. But yeah, I think it might be like my pride as well. That's just like holding me back from making that connection.
Man, pride is the devil, man.
Yeah.
And you know, it's pride is two-way street though, because pride also kind of works as our defense mechanism because you know, really our pride is trying to we think our pride is trying to protect us from something. And sometimes that pride is like, oh, I have standards, or you know, I carry myself a certain way, and so this is what I expect in return. Or you know, or you try to not put yourself out there because you don't want to look weak or vulnerable. And, you know, the older you get, you realize like, man, looking weak and looking vulnerable is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds weird.
No, not at all. Not here.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, man, I ain't got it right now. Like, I'm investing in my career or this dream, or you know, I'm working hard to do X, Y, Z, but I just financially ain't got it right now. And that kind of makes you like, oh, that makes me look weak. But in reality, like, and again, this kind of goes back to having a plan and a purpose. You know, there were a lot of times where I would be trying to take Paige on a date, do this, do that. And I knew like, hey man, I got $47 in this bank account to spend. Yeah. And I know if I go get this meal and I get this drink for me and a drink for her, I could probably get it to about $38. And then I have about a $7 tip so that we cool for the night. And of course, you know, then she's like, oh, I want a second glass. And I'm like, damn, I don't know if we could do that right now. But again, that's kind of the thing. It's like, man, being, you know, showing vulnerability and showing weakness is not the worst thing in the world, so long as you're not helpless. Like there is a difference. Like, like if you broke, or if you like emotionally unstable, or you are really in your feelings, or whatever it is, but you don't necessarily have a reason as to why, or to what you're trying to do to like improve the situation, then yeah, people are going to look at you like you weak, and you need to figure that shit out, because what ends up happening is you end up taking it out on that other person. And unless that person really love you, they ain't got that type of time or energy to stand for nothing like that. And you know, at that point it becomes protection on their end. So, you know, they got to do what they got to do.
Yeah. And you know, it may not be pride, because I'm thinking right now, it's like sometimes I'll be wondering, is it my comfort that wants that, or, you know, have I really just outgrown the shit, and that's why I just keep moving in the way that I'm moving now. But I think about that shit a lot. But I wouldn't want to be nowhere comfortable either.
Well, that's interesting. You frame it that way because I think everybody goes from like that lusty curiosity love to like that comfort love, and when you get to that comfort love, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to understand when you're there.
Yeah.
Or if you are there, then you got to embrace it too and just like revel in it and like, nah, man, like I can let these things go. Cause then what you realize is like you carrying it on your shoulders. It's like,
yeah,
oh man, I can tell her everything. Like that's liberating. Like, oh, I can tell her everything.
yeah,
I don't have to hide anything anymore. Like I there were like, even like year 3, 4, 5, like there were things like I was still struggling to share. Just because like I wasn't ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so, like I was blessed to have somebody that was patient with me, and I always tell her too, as she's making a drink in the background as we speak. I always tell her too that like one of the things that was kind of a turn on is that she would read the shit out of me and tell me I was fucking up. And that is comfort love too, is like when somebody can tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna leave because they told you the truth, and you gonna actually like process it and like do something about it.
Yeah.
Because you want to make it work, and or you know that they right, and that person is there to not only like tell you, but then also to help you. So I think about those things, and it's like that's pretty cool.
Man, maybe I'm running.
Man, there's still much time, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. This quarantine has really been giving me time to like focus on my creative shit, and I do miss that companionship, and I do miss like being, with somebody like that. But it's also like it's kind of brought me somewhere else where it's like I'm really focused on me, and like I've been dealing with a lot of my own shit, positive and negative, like seeing like some really good shit in me and seeing some shit that need to change, and just working through all the shit.
Yeah, you can't be in a relationship. You can't be in a good relationship with anyone else till you're in a good relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I tell people, man, like the best years of dating in my life was in my late 20s to early 30s. It just so happened when I hit that range, I also found my wife. So I didn't necessarily get to enjoy it all that much. And I'm not saying that like oh I wish, but I'm just saying like when you know who you are, it allows you to filter out all that shit that doesn't matter. And I think again, like some of that was just like, oh, you don't vibe with me in this way? Cool. We ain't even gotta move forward. Like I'm okay with it. It's not the end of the world. I actually think I got more attractive because I started to know who I was more.
Yeah.
And that meant that I actually found more people I vibe with because I just moved in a different way. Like, oh, like I really ain't gotta be in this club at all. Like I know how I want to kick it. I know who I want to kick it with. I know what I want to get out of these friendships and relationships. And of course, like when you have those things and you check those boxes, like it's almost like a filter system when you're on Craigslist, or like I think about we're on Redfin looking at houses, and it's like gotta be 3 bedrooms, gotta be 1,500 square feet, school's gotta be 5 and up, and yeah, like that list of 200 houses might only be 12 now, but like I know what I'm looking for because that's what I want to get. And so we've got a much more likely scenario where like we're going to be unified. So, because, if you have those filter systems and you're around those people that are like-minded, then you likely to have better unions. So, that's how I look at it.
Man, what advice would you give to somebody on that journey of self-discovery?
I would tell them just to swim in the honesty. Like be honest with yourself, and when people tell you things, like believe them. Like they're not like so. part of my self-discovery is like, I am non-committal. Like years ago, I used to get like, yo, Edge, you're kind of a flake. And life got a lot better when I owned up to being a flake and non-committal to things. And it could be like, yo, I think I'm gonna meet y'all for happy hour. And then like, I just never show up, right? Or yeah, I might chip in and do this work for y'all, and then I never do it. And like, I had to address that. And so the first thing I did, I just admitted and be like, hey, y'all know I'm non-committal as hell, so be mindful of whatever you ask. Like, just being very upfront about it. And then the second part was just like, okay, well, what are the things that I could do to actually be better? And one of the things I was able to do is just be like, no. Like the power of no is liberating. It's funny. Like I would tell a couple of the homies, like, man, quitting is underrated. Like, when you were playing a video game and with your friend and they were curb stomping you and they put that 21-0 skunk rule up, like that saves a lot of time. You could go back to doing homework, or you could go back to cake it with your lady, or you could do whatever, because man, you got 21-0 skunked at Madden. Like, you just saved yourself like 37 minutes. Like, that's great. But like, there are times where like, when you realize like, no, like this can end and it's okay. And so like, I think having those like honest moments with yourself as far as self-discovery is concerned is like, to take another analogy, everybody would watch Marie Kondo on Netflix, and like, when you start filtering the things in your house, like, what are the things that bring you joy? And so I think with being in isolation, like, you have a lot more time to think about what are the things that actually make you happy. And like, so now I'm gonna take another analogy. It's like the 80-20 rule. Like, whatever those two or three things are that really make you happy, give that 80% of your free energy and see what happens. And if one of those things is like, just for example, making money, hustling on the internet and getting money, doing whatever, like, imagine if you gave more of your time and energy to getting this money, like, you make yourself happy. Or baking cookies, or I don't know, playing Call of Duty on PlayStation, which is probably what I'm gonna do when I get off of here. Like, it makes me happy. Like, there's something therapeutic about taking a squad of 3 other people and taking over the bank and holding it down for 5 minutes and not letting any intruders come in there and get our money. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of a cool thing. Like, I appreciate doing that. So, but whatever it is, like, invest that time and energy in doing that, and then see how it feels, and then recalibrate again. Like, but keeping your focus on what makes you happy and brings you joy is important for sure.
That's what's up, man. How have you been doing without the NBA?
I mean, that's not fair, because that's the weird thing. Like, how have I been doing without the NBA? Well, the only thing that hasn't been happening with the NBA is that there hasn't been games played. Like,
yeah,
NBA has not gone anywhere. Like,
that's true.
The Last Dance. So I'm just going to be a corporate shill for the next 20 seconds. The last 2 episodes of The Last Dance air on ESPN Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Pacific time. Set your DVRs. If you got kids, you can watch the edited version with the language edited out on ESPN2 simulcast. And then if you missed all the episodes on Tuesdays, The Last Dance will be re-airing on ABC. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you don't have ESPN, $4.99 a month gets you ESPN Plus, and you'll be able to stream and download or watch on demand all the episodes, including all the ESPN 30 for 30s and all the live television that airs on our networks. All right. Hopefully the mouse gives me a pay raise for that. But I say all that to say the following. Like, I do miss live basketball because it's a really good distraction, of course.
Yeah.
And just to be honest, like, the live sports aspect is what gives my job some like longevity, because I don't know how many documentaries we're gonna be churning out, and so basketball is gonna get played at some point. So But what I've come to realize is that sports is therapeutic for a lot of people. I've always said, one of the things I said really early on is like sports was the first reality television show. Sports is the first reality television show, and we can all find ways to bring joy out of that. And so, you know, I think some people try to look down on folks that like enjoy sports or spend a lot of time with it, but you know, this is another thing that makes people happy. Now, people go be fanatic about it and stuff, but you know, this is what's also, you know, one of my best men. So one of my best men, his name is Kenny, and I met Kenny. Now I'm gonna tell on myself how old I am. I started blogging on the internet in 2008, and I feel like all these life events happen when I'm in between jobs. So I was given a severance package because my company wanted me to move to Minneapolis, and so I took the severance package, and then I had a job lined up. But I had like 3 months where I was getting paid, but I didn't have any work. So all I was doing was ordering Domino's pizza and watching football and living my best life. And, you know, like blogging and Twitter and stuff in 2008 was like a totally different concept.
Yeah.
And so like there were like real internet communities. And I remember I was in this internet community called Zanga, and I was like posting works and stuff there. And I kept seeing this dude like liking some of my stuff. And he had I'm an alpha. So he had like a 1906. Okay. And I was like reading this stuff, and like all he was doing was writing like salacious poems to women and writing about sports. And I was like, man, who the hell is this dude, right? And so, but he could like for real write. He could write much better than me. And I was like, yo, like, okay. And then I found out he was in Dallas. I was still I had just moved to Ohio, but I'm from Oklahoma. And so we got cool. We were cool online. And then I happened to be in Dallas, and I was at the step show, and I seen this dude walking by, and he looked familiar. And I was like, yo, Kenny? And he was like, yo, Ed. So like that was the first time we met randomly, not coordinated, at a step show at the University of North Texas. And he is the co-founder of my website, the Sports Fan Journal. He is now a doctor. He is an academic advisor for various athletic departments in Texas. And he's my best. I had 3 best men, but he was one of my best men. And but he's been on that journey with me as far as being a creative, and you know, he helped me grow a lot. And so, you know, and that was out of that was our mutual love for sports and flirting with women on the internet in mid to late 2000s. So, you know, I say all that to say, like, you know, these things that have gone away, like a lot of people from a mental health standpoint use some of these things. Some people use it to cope. Some people use it for solidarity and social gathering and commonalities. But, you know, like, I don't think we should take those things for granted. And I think it goes back to the earlier conversation we had, which is, what are the things that make you happy? And if you love Japanime, if you love Japanese cartoons, it's okay. Like, believe it or not, there are women out here that love Japanese cartoons. It's okay. If you are a man and you love to bake cakes and cookies and pies and things like that, man, there are a lot of women that will appreciate, men or women who will appreciate you as a partner because of that. And if you love Jordans and you think you love Jordan, there are men and women who love that same thing. And so I can keep going on and on, but you get my point. Like, I think that's very important to be aware. Like, it's one thing to be one-track minded and have blinders on and be like, yo, I love sports and sports is everything and that's all I care about. Like, that's OD. But like, hey, sports is an active part of my life. I'm more than just sports, but no, this is a part of my life, and I'm not going to change that. But come get to know me for who I am in totality and embrace that for who I am. And then I think that's what makes everything go a lot smoother. So, you know, that's I told Paige, like, I will do anything possible to go see Dave Chappelle perform. And I remember one night we were in Oakland, and he did a Sunday show, and we both had to work Monday. And I dropped $400 for 2 tickets for us to go see him at the 11 o'clock show on a Sunday night. And Dave Chappelle, if you don't know, Dave Chappelle, like on his road shows, he will go forever. We left Yoshi's in Oakland at 4:17 in the morning. And he was still and like to this day, I kind of regret going, but like we left Yoshi's and they ran out of coffee. Who runs out of coffee? Like they ran out of coffee, and we left. And she was like, "I'm down," because she watched me watch Chappelle stand-ups forever, and she knows what I think about him as like not only a stand-up, but just like as a artist and as a genius in some respects. So
yeah.
And she's the same way. Like, well, I didn't go with her, but she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go see Beyonce," and I'm like, "Oh, like I didn't even know Beyonce was performing." "Yeah, I'm on the special list." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a special list." I was like, "Well, how much did you get the tickets for?" And she didn't want to tell me. And then I found out she spent like 2 of my car notes to go sit in like the 4th row. And I was like, "Oh, she's like for real committed." So what I'm gonna do, hey, if Beyonce is performing, I just know I ain't gonna see my girl for like 24, 36 hours because that's what she can do. But you know, that's what we about, so that's what it is.
Yeah. Man, what do you think the game is gonna be like without fans in the arena?
It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. I also think that I actually think this is gonna be a good thing for fans because fans are trash.
Yeah.
And I know, and I say that with my pen name being Ed the Sportsman. Like, you know, the word fan means fanatic. And I don't prescribe to being a fanatic about it because I take my sports a little more seriously to be a fanatic about it. That kind of sounded fly. I just made that up. But you know, like, so, you know, like I said, I'm a Thunder fan. Like, one of my favorite players is like is Russell Westbrook, right? Russell Westbrook is God as far as I'm concerned. But like the vitriol and like the way that people respond to Russ as a fan is crazy. And you know, I've covered a lot of games and I hear how fans talk to players. And mind you, like 90% black players. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, however many times they want to throw the N-word and, you know, talk crazy, you know, and you know, and that's before you get to like people throwing stuff and like just not having any couth or character about what's going on. And so, you know, and this isn't to sweep a broad brush to all fans, because a lot of most fans, this is what happens. Like the 5% of people that are trash mess it up for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
But I hope that fans get a chance to really appreciate what's happening, and I hope that, you know, the leagues and the teams continue to think about like, hey, like we need each other to make this work, and not just for financial reasons. Now that I got all that out the way, I am petitioning ESPN hard to put even more microphones on the court, because if you've ever sat courtside or you've ever sat close enough to an NBA court or a college basketball court, the shit talk is legendary. And
yeah, I never have.
Yeah, and like the shit talk, and not only the shit talk, but like the coaching, the way in which players communicate with each other. I've always been really surprised to see how well. So like I said, when I was going to Warriors games, and I've had a couple of times where I've been able to sit closer, and you can hear Draymond call out every team set every time. Like, it is crazy. Pin down on the elbow. Oh, Beal's flashing to the corner. Watch JaVale on the roll. Like, and it'll all be happening in like 10 seconds. And it's like 7 different instructions, and you'll see the team working in synchronicity in that way. And it was really interesting. ESPN aired a UFC fight card recently, and one of the fighters, Greg Hardy, who's a terrible human, by the way, but this ain't really got nothing to do with that. He was fighting, and there were no fans in the stands. And Daniel Cormier, Oklahoma State legend, Daniel Cormier was calling the fight, and Daniel Cormier was as an announcer, on the telecast was saying like Greg Hardy, he has to protect his face from kicks or the fight's going to end. And at the end of the fight, Greg Hardy was like, yeah, I can hear Daniel Cormier telling me I need to protect my face because of these kicks. And that's how I was able to win the fight.
Wow.
Which is nuts. He was like, yo, I can hear everything. And so that will be actually pretty interesting to see how teams communicate, how the players communicate, how the coaches communicate. You got to think like nobody has a home field advantage anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So like it is, and there's no sound. So like think about like a college basketball tournament game where like there isn't any advantage for real. But now there's also like no sound. So like you've got to be able to coordinate your play calling and your strategery, if you will, in an even more incognito way, or you've just got to be able to out execute. Because like as far as the NBA is concerned, everybody knows what everybody runs. And if they don't know it, they steal it rather quickly. And so, like, I think those smaller parts of the game will be really interesting. And I think that, the pandemic has caused a lot of companies, and this will be interesting to see, too, what the media does, but people are having to innovate on the fly.
Yeah.
And so to like even take it out of sports, like you see how many restaurants have had to convert into a takeout delivery model, really recalibrate how they do orders. You think about all of the ways in which like things have shifted, like Twitter just came out and said, we will never make it mandatory for you to come into the office and work ever again, even after the pandemic is over. Like working from home is now a full-time thing. And so, like companies are going to be continuing to reinvent themselves because of it. And people are going to be continually thinking about how do we shave money on the bottom line. So, the NBA is going to have to do that too. We were just having that conversation about, well, what does season ticket prices look like if ain't no season tickets to sell? What does that mean for corporate suites? What does that mean for the concession workers and the custodians and the security and all of these different people within the facility? It was a big deal. If you remember early on when the pandemic happened, when Rudy Gobert blessed the mic, all the players were like, Kevin Love was like, I'm giving $1 million to the arena workers so that, they don't lose their jobs. And Zion Williamson was like, I'm going to give $1 million, do this, that, and whatever. And then, like, the owners came in and whatnot. But, like, what are they going to be doing in 2020? What are they going to be doing in 2021? Like, if there's no need for fans, how does that impact the people that are working in the arena? And so I think the trickle-down economics is, people are already kind of scratching and clawing and surviving to kind of make do. But I think that's the reason why there isn't a short-term fix for this. And, people are urgently already thinking about how do they get back to work, how do they open up certain things and everything. And, my thing is like, this is going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year decade.
Hell yeah.
Generational. There are going to be like generational changes that will happen because of what's happening now.
Hell yeah.
And I think that's really not only the scary thing about the NBA, but also just with the world we live in. Like we have to be ready to adapt and be willing to protect ourselves to the point where, if I'm just being frank, like I've already had the conversation with my boss, like, do I need to live in Los Angeles? Because, and they're like, oh, well, for now, like, yeah, like we don't see that changing anytime soon. But I'm like, man, if I can prove that I can do my job at the field,
right.
do I need to be in like the second or third most expensive city in America to do it? especially because we thinking about having kids and we ain't having kids, but kid. And we talking about buying, but like the house we trying to buy is probably gonna be $700,000, and like that's if you don't live in California, that sounds like an absurd amount of money unless you like got 2 commas in your salary, right?
Yeah.
So I just think about it in those ways, like maybe some good. I think that's the other side. Is like, what are the good that's going to come out of some of this? And outside of us being able to sell our house for a profit, like I'm hoping that more good comes out of it than bad in the longer term.
Yeah, I think it will. I don't think we ever gonna go back to the way things were.
Absolutely not.
So I'm curious to see. Even like teaching online now, it's like, and we don't work Fridays. So are we gonna start having like 4-day weeks, or like how is that gonna go when things go back to normal?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually interesting. I don't think I told you, but so I got accepted as an adjunct professor for. So I got my master's degree at the University of San Francisco, and they have it's actually for sport management. And so
that's what's up.
I pitched the course, and they accepted me, but my class did not get voted by the students. But we were having these conversations about like, well, the University of San Francisco is a private Jesuit school, and like them classes for 2 years is $50,000. And is a university justified in charging 50 racks?
Hell no.
If A, there isn't a classroom to come into, and B, the landscape for job opportunity is radically different.
Right. Nah, they can't. Like, I feel like what you pay for is the college experience. So, if you're not getting that, it don't make it worth it.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with my niece, not my niece, which is kind of my niece, but she got accepted into school, and one of my other cousins, she's thinking about going back to school, and for the longest, she was like, I want to go to the University of Washington because she lives out in Seattle. I'm gonna go UW, and I'm like, girl, you don't even know what you want to do right now,
right?
Like, you can go to community college and just knock all this out. And after you do your 2 years, you can always transition back into the program or the school. And you get to save like so much money. And so now, I think for a lot of people, if you're not going to get the college experience, which is the number one reason why you should go to college for the first place. Like if you go into Harvard, I'm just using Harvard as an example.
Yeah.
If you're going to Harvard to go get a good job, you're doing college wrong. Like if you're going to Florida A&M to get a good job, you're doing it wrong. You're going there first and foremost to try to figure out who you are. It goes back to the earlier conversation. Who you are, what you want to be, what do you believe in, and finding those people that are going in a similar direction as you, so that you have the room to make some mistakes, make some memories, and really learn how to be a problem. If anything, you go to school to be a problem solver. They don't really tell you, but like half the battle of college is just figuring out how to stay in college. and like I think once people really, once you figure that part out, then life becomes a lot easier, and college becomes even more fun, because you realize like it's a game within a game. But like I've gone down a different path. But like that's kind of where I am with it. I'm just like, these things are going to be steadily evolving, and we got to be willing to evolve with it. But Mike Brown, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What you think?
I love it, man. I do. I and it was funny because at first I was like, man, we'll do a tasting, because I know you were doing the tasting with the liquor and stuff, but I just started drinking and I forgot. But man, because I've only been to one tasting in my life, and I really don't remember it because I went drunk.
Okay.
So, like, what is the purpose of like going to a tasting?
Yeah. So, the purpose of the tasting, it should be just for the experience, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that was half the battle in us I created Brown Liquor Collective in my basement apartment in Oakland with 3 of my frat brothers, just because I was like, hey man, like I know we go out and drink whiskey and stuff, but like, I don't know, why don't we like put $20 together per person? Let's just go buy some stuff we ain't never bought before. And so me and 4 of us, I think we all put in like $20. So it was like $100 and we got 3 bottles and we just and we got smacked. Man, we got smacked. And I think we ended up ordering pizza and doing this and doing that. And that was like our first thing. But I think in a broader sense, what I started, and so there's even an evolution of this. So give me 60 seconds, I'll tell the whole story. So like at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a whiskey club. It's gonna be just me and the fellas.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be our own little boys thing. Cool. And I remember like my girl was like, oh man, you should do this, do that. And I didn't want to take none of her advice. I was like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you ain't never done nothing. Like I'm saying, I've read the books. Like you got to have these particular crackers. You got to have this particular glass. And like, you got to do it this way. And she was like, you ain't gonna have no food. I'm like, no, we ain't gonna have no food. We ain't worried about that. We just need these crackers and we need this glass. Right. And of course, then we got smacked and we were drunk and, it was fine, but that's what happened. But over the course of time, like I started seeing, like I started realizing a couple of things. One, women like whiskey too. They love whiskey just as much as men do. And women want to learn about these things. And let me just say this right now, because like I try to be very real and try to be as feminist as possible about some certain things. If a woman tells you she likes whiskey, it's not because she's trying to get with a man. Like, get out of here. Like, women like whiskey because whiskey's delicious. Women like cognac because cognac's delicious. Women like mezcal because mezcal is delicious. Like, and it's just like they like wine. Like, men, it's very cool to like wine. Like, wine is awesome. Okay,
I fuck with wine. I love wine.
Yeah, like I've become more of a Shiraz kind of guy. I used to like Riesling a lot, but Riesling's now like a little too sweet for me. I like a good cab because the wife likes a cab. So like I know what I like. But the point is that, like I noticed that a lot of my friends who were black and brown always wanted to learn more about bourbon and scotch and whiskey. But like me, they were like, oh, this is like only for like old white people and hipsters. And it's like, nah, man, like this stuff is cool. But like anything else, you got to make this accessible. And so I think that was always the thing when I told you about it, like my whole thing is I want to do these tastings. I want to host these sessions and I want to make them as little pretension as possible. Yeah. I don't care about no dress. I ain't gonna have no dress code. If you show up, Jeezy might be playing. Now that doesn't mean you just come in there acting any old kind of way, because I don't that just like carry it in any old kind of way. Like that in itself is like half the battle. It's like why I don't like going to the club, or like if I go, like it's got to be a certain type of setup, because you've seen how I dress. I might be wearing a black tee and some jeans and some chucks and a fitted. That's like 87% of my uniform when I leave the house. And I might go to a date wearing that. I might go to the club wearing that. I go to work wearing that a lot, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'm also from Oklahoma, and I know if I'm dressed like that to go to a spot in Oklahoma, they might not let me in because they think I'm gonna do something, which is patently absurd. Like, look at me, like I'm old and I got gray in my beard. I ain't doing shit. But that's kind of the point. And so, it's a very, come as you are, but come with an open mind mentality. So we are basically a non-denominational church of whiskey sippers. How about that?
That's what's up.
Yeah. But of course, what happens is that what we've come to find is like there are people that are connoisseurs. I'm probably not even a connoisseur so much as I'm an enthusiast. And then we come to find brands that really speak to us. So one of the empowering moments was working with Uncle Nearest, because Uncle Nearest was created by Nearest Green, who was a slave. And Nearest Green was a slave but worked for Jack Daniel and in the Tennessee whiskey game, right?
Oh wow.
And Nearest Green was the one who helped develop the Jack Daniel No. 7 Tennessee whiskey that we now know, right? So
wow.
And so when Fawn Weaver and a group of investors, they bought into this idea of Nearest Green, and they worked with the Green family, and they created the Uncle Nearest Distillery and the whiskey, the 1884, the 1856, 1820. And like, of course, like when you hear Black people hear that story, they're like, yo, this is empowering. I'm about that.
Yeah.
Like, never. And then like, you have the actual whiskey, and the whiskey is amazing. Like I feel bad because every time I have a bottle, I can't keep it. Like I drink it, or like if I share it, like it's just gone. And the brand has been super supportive of everything we've done. And our social media following is not like huge in any way. But they also have reached out to us. I've had brand meetings already with some of their area reps. We were actually planning to do a whiskey tasting with Uncle Nearest at Hilltop Cafe in Inglewood this summer.
Wow.
And we still have plans to collaborate with them. But of course, with the pandemic, like we've got to put everything on hold. But yeah. I say that to say that, and they're not the only brand that wants to work with us. We've had other brands that have already worked with us and want to, because we offer something that they can't do. We bring cool people to their brand.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we already know, like, young Black and brown people always set trends. We are above the movement. Like, you can't buy us in the same way. Like,
right.
And frankly, like, we could spot a fraud. So I think when we've been able to show that, our brand, our collective, Brown Liquor Collective, like, we have a really good group of people who are knowledgeable but curious. And I show them our demographics. I've done a demographic breakout. Like 43% of our membership are women, right?
Wow.
74% of our group is 39 and under, right? So like we have a demo and a breakout of young, cool Black and brown people from all across the country, but most of them are based here in California, and it keeps growing. So I think like the tastings are just really important to not only get exposure to these whiskey brands, because I tell people all the time, this is what I was telling you about, you were asking me about cognac because you were saying like, oh, I drink, you said Douce, right? I think you were saying.
Somebody suggested Douce to me. Douce
right.
And
Remy, Cavassier, Henny.
Ciroc.
Ciroc. Okay, Ciroc got a brandy. So, yeah. So, look, man, I've had these conversations. It's actually something, if I do, one of the things, if I decide to podcast with BLC, is one of the things I really want to talk about is, you think about like, well, what did you get exposed to when you were growing up? Because like my mama drank E&J, right? My mama been drinking E&J since I've been born. She drink E&J. And like, I've seen the Black men in my family drink Hennessy and
that's all.
Yeah, Remy. And it's like, and then when you start to realize what they drinking, like, let me be clear. Hennessy's good. Remy's good. E&J is fine. I'm
gonna be honest with you though. I like this more than I like Hennessy. I really do.
Okay, so and there's reasons for that. All right. So, I mean, just look at the bottle.
Yeah. Just for the listeners, we drinking
Chabonneau
XO.
Yeah, and so this is a $50 bottle of cognac. Now,
right.
If you buy Hennessy at the store, you're probably going to spend $35 to $45 for Hennessy. Now, when you're drinking that Hennessy, though, that is Hennessy VS, okay? And the VS stands for very special, okay? But the VS, I'm going to simplify this. The VS means that it stayed in a barrel for 2 years. The blend of that cognac stayed in the barrel for 2 years. Now, if you go get Henny VSOP, that means that's that same blend, but it stayed in the barrel for 4 years. Now, this is Chabonneau XO. So Think of that as extra old, okay? And so that just, and literally, it just means that the youngest blend in that cask, in the oak cask that has been in there 6 years. So, one of the reasons why we're called Brown Liquor Collective is because when the spirit hits the barrel gives it character. Okay.
Yeah.
And the carol and the spirit goes from that white dog, that clear spirit to a brown. And so, that character is not only shown in the spirit, but then it's also, I like to try to flip it like, hey, the character in the sipper, us, tends to be brown too, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So boom, that's how you get to Brown Liquor Collective. But I digress. So that spirit that cognac's been in the barrel for 6 years, so it's got a chance to just hit the wood and sitting there and like chat with each other and collaborate and like, yo, like I get to like learn off of you. The spirit's doing all these funky things in the barrel, and it's evaporating because the sugar is turning over and everything. So the flavor is getting better and better.
Yeah.
So you spend $30 to $40 for Hennessy VS. Good Hennessy's good. Spend $10 more, you get the same spirit, same style of spirit that's aged 4 years longer. It's not gonna hurt. So like Hennessy is, so that's the thing too. Like because the aging process, like the longer it goes, sometimes it mellows out or it makes the palate a little smoother. So, that's where the quality part comes in. So,
yeah.
I try to tell people like all the time, like, hey, if you like Hennessy, you should really try something like Chabonneau, or you should try Heen, or you should try, the Quartet. Like there's so many other brands of cognac. Similarly, if you like Jack Daniels, you should probably try Uncle Nearest. Like, hey, get it from the source. Like,
Yeah.
Uncle Nearest 1884 is like one of the greatest things I drink on a regular basis. And yeah, it's cost like $45 for that bottle compared to like $20 for Jack Daniels. But I mean, it's Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels is fine, but like, treat yourself. And treat yourself to something that you ain't got to put Coke in or a bunch of ice or some ginger ale. Like you can sip it neat. And like Jameson, you should really try Tullamore Dew. And like the list can kind of go on and on, because I think that's always been the challenge for me. And this is not just this ain't got to necessarily just do it with whiskey and scotch, but I think about it with like the sneakers I buy. So like I've been starting to think about investing more in Puma sneakers. Like I really like what the Puma line is doing. Like I just like what they're doing.
Why is that?
I really like the cuts that they've done ever since they refreshed the brand a couple of years ago. They famously brought out like Boogie Cousins and Rudy Gay and Jalen. I see Jalen Rose at work all the time. I'm like, yo, his stuff is fly. So that's the other thing too, is like I see, Jalen Rose walking the pool. I'm like, yo, I could rock that. And then I look at the prices like, man, like I don't really want to spend $200 on J's no more. Like there's so many other sneakers out there. Like why am I stepping up at $200 just for J's are fly? I'm always gonna keep some Air Jordan 1s in the closet.
Yeah.
But
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Because I went to the Soho House one time with Byron, and it was an event with man, I always forget the brother's name, but it's a brother that worked for ESPN. He got dreads. He do the NBA stuff. He's gay.
Oh, LZ Granderson.
Yes, and I wanted to ask him, but because I got you, I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think that we will ever see like a gay superstar basketball player, and like, because I'm sure he exists somewhere in this world, but do you think we'll ever see like that person like just come out, and will people be accepting of that?
Oh yeah, I do. I think that question is not easy to answer just because there aren't that many superstars.
Right.
And so now, adding the, what the percentages are, for being gay versus straight, Okay, then factoring in people that are willing to come out the closet or not, right? So like those are like two variables that make the answer messy, but the macro big time answer is like absolutely. And if any sport was going to have it happen, it would be basketball.
Hell yeah.
Because basketball is a very liberal, democratic sport, and which is funny because you would think like it would be easier in football because you can't see your face, right? But in my opinion, and I have to be careful because I know who I work for, but
absolutely, yeah.
I will just say that the NFL has proven itself that they really care what fans think and their owners think.
Yeah.
And
It was a dude at the event that played in the NFL. I forgot his name too. Damn, what was his name? I can't think of his name, but he might have still been active, maybe. Yeah. And like he just seemed like a real cool dude. I think he might have been from Texas too, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that blows my mind, and it blows my mind because, you know, I played in a gay basketball league, and like some of the talent that I've seen is just amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers be cold. Like people that have played in college and shit, and it's like, man, what if that dude would have went, or what if, you know, somebody just put it out there, like how many kids would be like inspired to, you know.
I think the tragic part of some of this is that, you know, it's let me be careful how I say that. I think that you realize when you're in that type of public face that, you know, your life can be on the line. And I think people and you know, I look at someone like, you know, I think about Chappelle making jokes about being the first black president, and then Barack did it, and Barack, I mean, comparative to what we got now, like Barack almost had to be flawless all the time. Like there is maybe no better representative for the black community to have ever been able to be the president of the United States than him, because there was not a check mark that he couldn't check. From an education standpoint, from his partner, to the work he did in the community, to where he came from, to the things he believed in, to the way he carried it. Like there were no flaws, right? And so I do think that, and it sucks because that's like, you know, you know, that sense of like black exceptionalism and that sense of thinking about the fact that, you know, for others, the expectation is hardly ever to be perfect while you're making the good fight.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of times, so like I think about The Last Dance now, and like how we talk about LeBron, and, you know, we had these expectations for MJ to use his name for the greater good. And we see how LeBron now will throw his weight around for the greater good. And I think about the fact that, like, you know, Bomani Jones said something really interesting about MJ when they were talking about the I believe it was the Senate race in North Carolina, and there was a black man running for Senate against Jesse Helms, right? And Jesse Helms was like openly very racist, okay? And you know, you hear when he's talking about there's no joy in Mudville. Well, Mudville is slang for black people, okay? After he won, right? And Bomani just makes a really good point, because a lot of the black folks, and let me be clear, black people and the Democratic Party were very much like, yo, like your name might actually mean something in like making this go a certain way. And, you know, Mike got a lot of crap for like Republicans buying sneakers too, because, you know, he felt like he said it in jest, making jokes, which for what it's worth, it's a fly joke. Like if you just said that off the cuff, like, yo, like it's real, but because it's Mike, it's Mike.
Yeah.
But to the larger point, it's like, man, you put in all that hard work and dedication to be Michael Jordan, to have this much power and this much stature, and like you're afraid of what's gonna happen because you speak out against that dude. Like I think that's kind of where it's like, and like I don't necessarily shade Mike for not being willing to take that stand, because again, the man was 27 when all of this was happening. Like, think about how trash you and I were, and not you, but I'll just
no, yeah, me too.
I know how trash I was at 27, and like I wasn't making quality decisions and thinking that high level at that time. I'd like to think I wasn't. So I really think it's one of those times where it's like, yeah, it would have been nice for MJ to speak up, but it's probably
what I'm getting from this documentary is that he didn't give a shit about nothing else but just being the greatest basketball player.
Yeah,
like, he didn't care about nothing else, not being a good person or none of that shit. Because it's funny, like as I've been watching this shit, it's like everybody that's on here has said how amazing he is as a basketball player, but it's been maybe like 2-3 people that have said he was like just a cool person.
Well, that's the funny thing about art and artists in that way.
Yeah.
My favorite artist is probably James Brown. Okay. And James Brown was an asshole to infinity. He was an asshole to his band. He was an asshole to women. True story. Now, this ain't really got nothing to do with him being an asshole, but this is a true story. James Brown and his traveling road show took his talents to Oklahoma to perform. Now, my mama was in attendance for one of his shows. James Brown became a fan of my mama at one of these shows to the point that James Brown, now this is hearsay, so I can only tell you this is what my mama and grandmama say, okay? James Brown came to my grandmama's house to ask my grandmother if my mama could perform and travel on his road show.
Wow.
Now, my mom was like, I don't know, like 17, 18, 19, somewhere around there. And my grandmother, politely, as I've been told, said, Mr. Brown, we will play your music until the end of time in this house. We love you. But there is no chance in hell that on this bus with you to travel on any parts of your road show. Okay. And so, you know, like I say all that to say with James Brown, like him being an ass and like being kind of a terrible person. Like these are the depths that people go to for their art. I think about Kanye, like I can't listen.
That's probably one of my favorite artists. Kanye and Pharrell are like my two favorite artists.
Right. So like Pharrell, okay, let's talk about Kanye and Pharrell. Pharrell, I view Kanye and Pharrell both as geniuses.
Absolutely.
Pharrell is very open about supporting his causes. I mean, he does shoe lines geared towards humanity and human rights, right?
Yeah.
Right. And for a time, we felt like Kanye was there too. You know, his famous George Bush doesn't care about black people line, and you would hear it in his messaging about, you know, the flaws in school and what the things we grow to believe. And I don't have any better way of saying it. Kanye lost his goddamn mind. Okay. And now you might not agree with that.
I feel you, and I'm gonna say I kind of feel like it's an act. I think it's an act. I really do. I think he goes out in public and he's like, fuck it. How can I just fuck with them? Like they fuck with me all day. Let me just fuck with them and just go be fucking. I really think that's what it is.
Yeah. I will, if Kanye's running the ultimate game on us and I just happen to get lost along the way, I'll take the L. But like I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like he lost me. I can't do it. And I still think he's an artistic genius, but I do think that, and you have to be careful with this. So this kind of goes back to talking about our passions and things that we love and the things that bring us joy. Like the depths that people will go to for their art in some ways are mind blowing.
Yeah.
What Michael Jordan was willing to do for the sake of Michael Jordan was not driven necessarily to be the best basketball player in the world versus Michael Jordan was driven to make sure that no one could hold anything over him. Okay? And I think sometimes, and then like art on the basketball court happened as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think that's where art becomes interesting. And so I want to make sure I make this one point down. I was talking about MJ versus Bron. I don't think we should ever be really negative per se about MJ during that time because I think he was still trying to figure out life in some ways because he had, you think about just how laser focused people are about basketball. And this was MJ in the 80s, but he was still laser focused. I think this is just an opportunity just to say you got to give Bron his flowers.
Hell yeah.
For being that hyper aware. You give someone like Steph his flowers. You give people who are willing to like go out there and say those things, invest their money, invest their time to be conscious and aware, to stand up for people that can't stand up for themselves and use their name in that way. And so, and maybe you have to give credit to someone like MJ for pushing the paradigm to where it is, to allow someone like LeBron to feel that empowered.
Man, Bron is going down as a people's champ for real. Like I really believe that.
Unless you're a Warriors fan, yeah. But yeah, man, I think that's always the thing about art and artists in that way because greed. They talk about like the 7 deadly sins, and like you think about the things that can consume people, and people's art and striving to be the best artist they can. It can consume them, and sometimes it can be positive, and sometimes it can be negative.
Yeah,
and frankly, and I believe this too, that Black people hold our Black stars more accountable than any other group of people. Because we believe in Black exceptionalism, and we will also defend our own more stridently than anybody else because we're not standing for anybody to be talking crazy about Barack or
right, yeah,
MJ. Like it's got to take a lot. Like that's the funny thing. Like you think about how much a piece of shit MJ's been, and we really don't really give him a hard time for it. Like you gotta kind of go to like Kanye, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby levels.
Yeah.
It is, right? and then that just makes me think about, but then I flip it again to like I sometimes when I'm bored I'll go listen to like old Malcolm X speeches or like orations or whatever. And he was doing this debate show and he said very eloquently that Black people are the only people whose intellectual thought leaders are comedians and artists and athletes.
Yeah.
Like no other group of people is like, they look to their, musicians to like be the strongest voice. But in a lot of ways, like we do have that expectation for those people. And
absolutely.
And then when they disappoint us, it's like, how could you? Like, don't you know what's on the line here? And they're just like, I was just trying to hoop, or I was just trying to sing, or I was just trying to tell jokes. And it's like, so, I think that's both tragic. It's a tragically flawed, bittersweet, awesome thing. And, these are the things that we got to deal with on a daily basis sometimes.
Yeah, man.
So.
Shit. Before we get out of here, man, one question that I ask all my guests, and I'm going to ask you, is what is one piece of advice or lesson that you could share with the listeners?
Hey, man, you're going to make me get all metaphorical and deep. No, I think this is probably just pretty I could use the Marshawn Lynch, just, get your chicken right. Get your mentals in order. But nah, man, the best piece of advice I can give is, man, like, you can't be honest with nobody until you're honest with yourself. And My life got better when I was willing and able to do that and hold myself accountable to that honesty. And so, once you can kind of embrace who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for or what you want to achieve, like life gets so much easier. And it'll help you move in a more efficient way, help you move in a better direction. You'll get the results that you want. And just know that, look, it's not easy. Like, just because, the first thing is, like, you got to be truthful, and then you got to walk that truth. And, that's when you need your accountability partners. You need that freedom of structure. I would encourage everybody to listen to, Bomani did a TED Talk called Freedom of Structure, and it's really good. And I think that if you're a creative in particular, I think it's something to really listen to, because everybody needs frameworks to funnel their creativity and funnel their focus. Because a lot of times we don't realize how much we're just wandering aimlessly to do a whole bunch of stuff. And I even say that doesn't have to necessarily be art. Like, I go back to my financial advisor, who's also one of my best men, but he gave us a budget and he helped us budget. And like, we realized how like out of control some of our spending was, and like how not focused some of it was. And lo and behold, we had a budget and all our bills are paid. We got money left over. We got money to use for X, Y, and Z. And, and that then opens up more opportunities for us to do the things you want to do. So it's not only about having a financial budget, you almost have to have a creative budget or a productivity budget. And so whatever helps you get to that point, man, like, you got to do it.
Man, Ed, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. Like, I feel like I learned so much just talking to you, because yeah, man, like I probably met you last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we never really like got a chance to like really, really connect. So it's dope to really talk to you and just get to know you as a person, man.
Yeah. I think that's the good thing about when you surround yourself with good people, is like other good opportunities come out of it. And so,
yeah,
you and I have mutual friends in Brandon and Byron. And, I think Byron's nuts, but he's a good dude. And, I actually, when he told me he was moving to Los Angeles, I was excited, because I knew that he is a flag bearer of positive energy. And
yeah,
I know that if I have him around, that it'll transfer over to me and other opportunities will come up. And so this was one of those opportunities. So
yeah,
I'm
absolutely,
just as appreciative as you, man. It's all good.
I appreciate that, man. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, man. So Ed the Sports Fan is my handle for everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, OnlyFans. No, I'm joking. No, you can find me at Ed the Sports Fan. And, I tell people, like, man, just hit me up. Like, if you got questions, if you want to collaborate, I got time. We all got time now.
Yeah.
So, if you want to collaborate, if you want to link up, if you want to do virtual coffee or virtual drinks or whatever, we can do it. So,
hey, man, we should definitely plan a tasting. I would love to do that. Like, maybe just letting everybody know what to go buy, and then we just
we've been talking about that. I think stay tuned. I'll just keep it there. Stay tuned. It's something that we've been talking about, but you might have motivated me to try to get that in motion.
Absolutely, man, for real. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being on the show. Thank y'all for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Peace.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of The Art of Letting Go. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let other people know what you think as well. If you want to get in touch with us, hit us up on all social media at The Art of Letting Go Podcast. Also, you can send me an email, theartoflettinggopodcast@gmail.com, or give us a call. Leave a message. We might play it on the show. 213-394-2773. Also, if you would like to support The Art of Letting Go, we got some really cool merch, as well as we're now on Patreon. You can find us, The Art of Letting Go Podcast. Subscribe to us. Thank you guys for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go.